I spend more time than I like to admit laying in bed before falling asleep playing on my phone. Some of that phone time is spent in forums and Facebook groups that I'm a member of. In those forums and groups, I constantly see tips and tricks on how to get better prints from DTG print providers. I own a DTG print shop and figured I could test these tips to see if they do in fact work. We use Brother GTX Pro Bulks, the same type of printer used by Awkward Styles, although I think they also use, or they have some Corneats. And SwiftPod also uses Brother GTX printers. The first tip I constantly see is doubling up print file layers, specifically in Printify's product creator, I guess, on their website. I actually just saw a video on YouTube that debunked this tip. It was a video on Jay's Way channel, I think he's in on some of these forums I peruse. And I completely agree with this video. Printify isn't saving files as a file type that supports multiple layers. File sizes would be too large, first of all, and second of all, when a multiple layer file is sent to all the various DTG RIP softwares, which is the software that printers use in order to convert an image into a print file before it's being printed. It's basically converting that image into a single layer file using only colors that are visible on top. So what you can see is basically what these printers are ripping. Another reason this tip doesn't make sense is that if you could double up your white ink layers, it would simply destroy the print. These DTG printers put down a very specific amount of ink, just a tad too much, and you'll get pooling and bubbling on the print, and then curing issues as well. With that, also no print provider is going to let you dictate that you use twice as much ink on a print. Ink is very expensive, and only the print operator is going to be able to control ink usage through different settings in the RIP software. It's not going to come through the artwork. That's just no printer is going to allow that. So I don't think that tip works, just based on knowing how artwork works, print files work, PNGs work. It's not helping. If you think it helps, I mean, it's not hurting anyone, so keep doing it. The second tip that I see all the time is using off-white color codes instead of pure white. The theory there is that by using an off-white color code, it can give you more vibrant print, because when printing off-white, the printer will lay down a white base first and then come back over and lay down that off-white second layer on top of it. I've been DTGing for 10 plus years. I've put at least 100,000 shirts on printers and actually printed them, pulled them off, put them on a dryer. And I've probably overseen the printing of, I don't even know, at least 1 million. Who knows? A lot of shirts. And I've never ever heard this off-white tip or trick before. But I see it all over the forums and on Facebook. So I figured, I've got access to printers. Why not see if it works? So what I did was I made a design with 4 different pure white and off-white color codes. I use the same color codes I see recommended all the time, and the same color codes used in Cassie Johnson's video on this topic, who did have positive results with her tests. And I see her video mentioned, whenever someone brings up the off-white color codes, they always mention her in it and say watch this video. So I did, actually. That's what gave me this idea. I used a pure white, the FFFFF, and then the 3 off-whites, FC, 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 FE, FE, FB, and F5, F5, F5. Then I printed that file. So they're all, we'll take a look in a second, but I printed that file on the back of, I printed that file on a black Gildan 18,000, a red 18,000, and then on a black independent trading company SS 4500. The Gildan fleece are 50% cotton, 50% polyester, and the independent fleece it's actually an 80% cotton, 20% liner, like lined on the inside, with a 100% cotton face. So the print face is 100% cotton. So we can go ahead and take a look at those. All right, here is the black 18,000. You can see the color codes right there. The pure white on the far left and the off-whites to its right. It doesn't look terrible. I think the average person, they would receive this in the mail, they would say, okay, I wanted a black fleece with white print, and that's what I received. But even from here, you look on the phone camera portion up close, you can see it's not full coverage of the garment underneath. The white isn't, but they all look identical. There's no difference between the pure white and the off-whites. Let's go ahead and zoom in. You can definitely see it's not terrible, but especially in the pound signs, you can really see there's black showing through. Again, I don't know if the average person would even notice or care, but if you're trying to send out the best quality to your customer, this is probably not it. But let's go ahead and take a look at the red Gildan now. Alrighty, here is the red Gildan 18,000. Oddly enough, on the camera, it doesn't look terrible. This one actually looks worse in person, but better on camera. I don't understand it. But again, I think if the average person were to receive this, they would say the same thing as the last one. Like, yeah, I wanted a red fleece in this instance with a white print, and that's what I received. Let's go ahead and zoom in. You can see red coming through the print on all of them. And again, all the color codes look identical to each other. Same setup as before. It's actually the same art file. I mean, that doesn't look terrible in the camera, especially, oddly enough. Interesting. All right, let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the independent SS 4500, the 100% cotton faced fleece. All right, here is the independent. You can see with this same color code, or excuse me, same file, pure white on the left, the off-white on the right, and you can see, let's zoom in. That's solid. That's a good print. If someone received this, they would be very, very pleased. I think even, most shop owners, if they would receive this, they would say, yep, that's a fantastic looking print. It honestly feels great too. Put my hand in there. It looks screen printed, which is kind of the look you're going for. That's what you want. Yeah, if someone were to receive this, they would be extremely happy. I mean, look how that looks. Let's see if I can zoom in. But I mean, that coverage is great. No black showing through whatsoever. Again, all the color codes though, they look identical to each other. There's no difference. The pure white and the off-whites, they all look like white. So what is it about the Gildans that make them look so much worse than the independent? It's the polyester content. So why does the polyester content make the prints look the way they do? It's due to what's called dye migration. The Google definition of dye migration is, and I'm just going to read it straight from Google. Let's see. Dye migration is the movement of dye from a dyed material, a t-shirt, to another material, ink, in contact with the dyed material. It can occur on polyester and polycotton blend t-shirts and other garments when the garment is heated to temperatures in excess of 265 degrees Fahrenheit, causing the dye in the garment to sublimate. So it's basically reverse sublimation. In sublimation, you're transferring ink from paper to a garment using heat and pressure. When you get dye migration in garments into the ink, it's the reverse. It's unfortunate when it happens, but it only really happens in polyester. And it happens because DuPont-based inks, especially the DuPont-based white inks, which most DTG printers use, require 2 to 3 minutes of 350 degree Fahrenheit plus temps in order to properly cure. 350 degrees is obviously higher than 265. And that 265 is what's required for dye migration to occur. So if you're curing DTG ink, you're going to get dye migration if you're printing on polyester, just based on the fact that you have to heat it up to such a high temperature to cure that ink. In order to further test the dye migration issue, I printed on the back of both Gildans with the same print file. So the back side, we took a look at the front earlier. I printed on the back as well, but I only cured those to about 250 degrees Fahrenheit. I verified the temps with an IR temp gun as it rolled through the dryer, and I made sure the temps never reached 265, and they actually never reached about higher than 256, I think, so well under 265. So let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick. All right, so here is the back side of the Gildan, the black Gildan 18,000. Definitely better coverage here with the white. Zoom in on the pound sign. Looks really good, and honestly, it looks almost as good as a 100% cotton. I was gonna show the red after this, but after looking at the red, I mean, it's basically identical to this one, so we'll just make the video longer. So for the sake of just keeping things short, we'll leave it like this, but we'll go ahead and I'm gonna do this real quick. Let me see if I can put the camera down. Fold this over and we can look at the front side that has the properly cured print along with this better looking backside that does not. So there we go. There you can see coverage. There we go. That's a good shot. Well, see if I can get some better light over here. Oh my gosh. Just banging things around. All right. Good enough. You can see black showing through. This is the backside, or this is actually the front of the hoodie that was printed correctly, cured correctly. So up to 360 degrees ish. And then this is the backside that was printed correctly but cured at a much lower temperature in order to keep dye migration from happening. And just by looking at these two, you can see the coverage on that top, the pound sign and the F's looks much better than the bottom half of your screen with the upside down letters. The only issue is with curing the print at such a low temperature is the longevity of the print might not make it through, more than, I don't know, a few washes, 4 or 5 washes before it starts to crack and peel, and pretty badly at that, just because it wasn't cured properly. But that's why it also looks so great on the polyesters, because it wasn't cured properly. Didn't give the temperature was low enough to stop dye migration from happening. So in order to take a look at things from a more technical view, I also created another print file that said this text will be used to measure how much ink each color code uses. It should be up on your screen. And I made 4 different versions of that print file. One with using each color code, so the pure white and then the 3 off-whites. And that way we can look at the ink usage according to the RIP software, or actually it was on the printer. What the printer itself says for that same design, how much we'll use for the off-white and the pure white. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, and that should be up on your screen now too. You can see the top one, the pure white, the FFFFF it actually used 0.06 cc's of color ink, even though it's a pure white, and then 4.64 cc's of pure white ink for a total of 4.7 cc's. The FCFCFC, which is one of the off-whites, used 0.07 cc's of color ink and 4.62 cc's of white ink. Total of 4.69 cc's. And then the FEFEFB used 0.07 cc's of color ink and 4.63 cc's of white ink for 4.7 cc's total. And then the F5F5F5 used 0.07 cc's of color ink and 4.56 cc's of white ink. So you can look at the totals there. The pure white at the very top used 4.7 cc's of ink. The FCFCFC used 4.69, so 0.01 cc's less than the pure white. The FEFEFB used 4.7 cc's, which is the same as the pure white. And then the F5F5F5 used the least amount of ink with 4.63 cc's total. So, I mean, what that's saying is basically all those color codes they look different on screen. Probably won't show you each one just because it's so hard to see. I don't know what your screens look like. Anyway, they look different on screen, but they're essentially the exact same, pretty much the same color once printed. And they all use right about the same amount of ink. So that theory of, well, using an off-white, they'll come in and lay down a white and then come in and lay an off-white. That's not how colors work on DTG printing. So that's why you see this ink usage, the way that it looks. So that tip, I mean, it's honestly, again, it's one of those, if you think it helps, keep doing it. It's not hurting anyone. You're not hurting anyone. The printer's not using any more ink, so it's not costing them any more money. But I mean, it might help your head. It might help you, have a little more confidence that you're sending out good prints, and that's honestly half the battle. I think the average person receives these shirts and just doesn't complain, doesn't know any better, and they're happy with receiving what they received. It's just that, customer who's just loud and wants to be loud and wants something done about their problem. And that stresses everyone out and makes you look for fixes like this. But again, use it if you want to. Use the first tip if you want to, too. Again, neither one are hurting anyone. They're probably not working, but if it helps you mentally, then I say go for it. But that's it. That's all I got. If you want to see more DTG tests or anything related to DTG, just being the fact that I've got, access to DTG printers of my own, just drop a comment below. And if the request is interesting enough and I can find the time to do it, I might just make a video on it. Thanks for watching.